People keep saying Steve Harvey is this lovable TV uncle, the wholesome game show host, the relationship expert, the guy who earned everything the hard way. But behind the scenes, rumor has it, Samuel L. Jackson is getting ready to call him out. And that's where it gets ugly. According to what's floating around the industry, this isn't just two famous guys having a mood swing. The word is, Samuel is protecting a legacy, and that legacy belongs to Bernie Mac. I don't know if all of this is true or not. I wasn't in those rooms, but this is what people around them have been saying for years. The claim is that Steve Harvey didn't just make it. He allegedly stepped over people to get there. People like Bernie Mac. And now other comedians are lining up with stories about jealousy, shady moves, joke stealing, and even trying to block movie roles. So the real question is not why is Samuel mad at Steve Harvey? The real question is what does Samuel know about how Steve Harvey really moves? Because if Samuel L. Jackson, who is usually not messy, is even hinting that he and Steve aren't actually best friends, that tells you this is not friendly barbershop talk anymore. On paper, Steve Harvey looks like the blueprint. Born in 1957, bounced around working random jobs, mailroom, carpet cleaning, whatever would pay, and then clawed his way into stand-up in the 80s. He hosted Showtime at the Apollo in the 90s, built the Steve Harvey Show sitcom, launched the Steve Harvey Morning Show on radio, then reinvented himself again as the face of Family Feud starting in 2010. Now it's 2025, and the man is basically a walking media franchise. Radio, TV, books, merchandising, even international spin-offs like Celebrity Family Feud and Family Feud Africa. Reports this year put his net worth around $200 million, and his yearly take is in the tens of millions, between radio and game shows alone. That's why people buy the brand. He's funny, he's loud, he's the tell-it-like-it-is uncle. He gives dating advice like he's Pastor Steve of Relationship Baptist. He pauses on Family Feud, stares into the camera, and the whole internet turns it into a meme. He's the guy corporations call when they want warm, safe, marketable black success. And because of that, a lot of us just assumed that all the big names, Magic Johnson, Samuel L. Jackson, Steve Harvey, and their wives, were basically one rich friend group on matching yachts. Pictures have popped up before of them on vacation looking like the Black Avengers of tax brackets. But here's where it starts tilting. Samuel has made it clear, in his way, that just because you've seen them on a boat doesn't mean they're besties. According to Samuel, sometimes it's literally just, Magic and Cookie have their boat, Steve and Marjorie have their boat, me and my wife are doing our own thing. Translation, don't lump me in like I'm co-signing this man's whole character. Which raises the obvious question, why distance yourself like that? Here's the hot take people whisper. Samuel isn't anti-Steve because of Steve. Samuel is ride or die for Bernie Mac. Samuel L. Jackson and Bernie Mac weren't just co-workers, they were close. They starred together in Soul Men, where they played ex-bandmates on a road trip to honor a fallen singer. Behind the scenes, Samuel says Bernie was pushing through serious health problems and still showed up, still worked, still refused to let anybody see him quit. After filming Wrapped, Bernie Mac got sick and passed away in August 2008 from complications related to pneumonia, only 50 years old. Samuel has talked about how surreal and painful that was. Bernie never even got to see the final cut of the movie, and Samuel personally helped make sure the film ended with a dedication to Bernie Mac and Isaac Hayes, because that's how much respect he had for him. So understand the energy. Bernie Mac to Samuel is family. Now here's where Steve Harvey walks into the story. The rumor, and again, this is alleged, this is what comedians and insiders claim, is that Bernie Mac always felt like Steve Harvey treated him more like competition than a brother. People say Bernie believes Steve was low-key jealous and tried to slow him down, even tried to jump into roles Bernie was up for, like in Ocean's 11. Comedian Katt Williams has said this on mic. Radio legend Ed Lover has repeated that Bernie told him the same thing directly. They both claim Bernie felt Steve wasn't just another king of comedy, he was actively trying to get in his way. If you're Samuel and Bernie Mac is your guy, that's personal. We have to talk about the original kings of comedy because this is where a lot of the tension supposedly started. That tour, Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Bernie Mac, was insane for its time. It was selling out massive arenas, turned into a Spike Lee movie, and pretty much crowned all four of them as legends. People called it the most successful comedy tour of that era. On stage, it looked like four brothers changing comedy. Off stage, not so brotherly. Cedric has admitted there was real tension between Steve and Bernie, and that tension is a big reason the group never ran it back for a second mega tour. In other words, that beef cost money. It wasn't just gossip, it had business consequences. Bernie himself told interviewers that Steve was jealous, that Steve tried to interfere with his movie opportunities, and that the vibe behind the scenes wasn't all, "We're kings, we're brothers." He felt like there was positioning happening, like somebody was trying to dim his light.
Now keep in mind what Samuel said about Bernie, that even when Bernie wasn't physically doing great, he showed up every day, said, "I'm good," and worked. Samuel calls it a joy to work with him. He talks about Bernie taking care of him when Samuel came to Chicago years ago. That's not co-worker, that's, "This man looked out for me in real life." So when Samuel politely separates himself from Steve in public, "Yeah, we were on the same vacation, but don't act like we share a toothbrush." People hear subtext, because to a lot of fans of Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey became too comfortable acting like the last surviving king of comedy, like he's the one who made it all make sense, while Bernie can't clap back. And that's where this stops being Hollywood drama and starts sounding like, "Don't rewrite my friend's legacy." Now let's zoom out from career stuff and look at character, because this is the part that blows up online. Steve Harvey sells himself as a mentor, a father figure, a man of God, mister. "Let me tell you how to run your household." Cool. But outside the TV smile, his personal life has been its own soap opera. His second ex-wife, Mary Shackelford, did not leave quietly. After their 2005 divorce, she went public claiming Steve cheated on her with the woman who later became his current wife, Marjorie. She also said the split destroyed her life, that she lost access to their son, that she was emotionally broken. She eventually filed a $60 million lawsuit against Steve, accusing him of everything from child endangerment to torture to something she literally called soul murder, which she described as a combination of torture, deprivation, and brainwashing. She said she'd been so traumatized she wanted him held legally accountable. Now Steve's team said absolutely not. His lawyer called the suit meritless, frivolous, and completely false, and the judge ended up tossing it. The court basically said this wasn't the right way or place to handle it. But even with the dismissal, the damage was done in the court of public opinion. You've got Mary calling him manipulative and cruel. You've got Steve's camp saying it's all lies. And you've got fans sitting there like, wait, this is the same man telling us how to pick a husband. And the drama refuses to retire. Years later, the blog started pushing new rumors that Marjorie was allegedly cheating on Steve with his bodyguard and their chef. Steve literally had to stand on stage at a public event and tell people to stop lying on his marriage, saying basically, "We're fine." So from Samuel's point of view, Bernie Mac was known as the dude who loved his wife, loved his family, showed up sick, and still tried to take care of everybody. Steve Harvey is out here being positioned as relationship goals while dealing with lawsuits from his ex, cheating rumors with his current wife, and gag orders in divorce court. You can see how that contrast would make somebody loyal to Bernie roll their eyes. Here's another angle people bring up: control. Steve Harvey is not just funny. He is also one of the best self-rebranders in modern TV. We're talking, I announced the wrong Miss Universe winner live on international television, and I still keep the hosting gigs. In 2015, he called Miss Colombia as the winner when the real Miss Universe was Miss Philippines, and the whole world had to watch the crown get taken off one woman and dropped onto another. He apologized, said it was an honest mistake, but it went instantly viral and still follows him years later. Most hosts would never recover from that. Steve turned it into part of his mythology. I mess up big, I own it, I'm still here. Same thing with money stories. Steve openly talks about hitting serious money problems in the past, like finding out he owed the IRS something like $20+ million in back taxes after an accountant allegedly didn't pay what needed to be paid, and then digging himself out. The way he tells it, he's self-made, self-rescued, self-owned. Fast forward to now, reports say Steve Harvey is pulling something like $40 to $50 million per year, and his estimated net worth sits around $200 million in 2025. A big chunk is radio money, another chunk is Family Feud, both the US show and the celebrity overseas versions, and the rest is production, endorsements, books, and merch. To his fans, that's inspiring. To his critics, that's, you'll say anything, jump in any lane, sell any brand, and rewrite any chapter to stay rich. And that's where other comedians start talking. Mark Curry, yes? Hang in with Mr. Cooper. Mark Curry has straight up accused Steve Harvey of stealing his material and using it on TV. Curry says Steve took bits like his broke kid Halloween costume story, the one where the costume is literally just wearing a cardboard box like a UPS package, then did the same gag on his own show years later. Curry even went public with side-by-side clips. Steve denied everything, said he's never stolen a joke in 35 years, and told Curry to grow up. Then there's Katt Williams. Katt has been on a full scorched earth press run saying Steve Harvey is not the innocent mentor he pretends to be. He claims Steve lied about parts of his I was homeless origin story and tried to snake Bernie Mac's movie roles while acting like he never wanted to be a movie star anyway. Katt also says Steve was acting like the undisputed king of comedy, when Katt and a lot of fans feel that Bernie Mac was actually funnier, and that Steve only got to rewrite that story because Bernie passed. Ed Lover backed that up and said Bernie Mac personally told him Steve tried to edge in on Ocean's 11, which, if true, would mean Bernie Mac died believing Steve Harvey had been working against him, not with him. Now put yourself in Samuel L. Jackson's shoes again. This is the man who called Bernie Mac a friend, who said Bernie took care of him in Chicago, who literally helped dedicate Soul Men to Bernie after he was gone. If you're Samuel and you've heard these stories for years, jealousy, alleged role stealing, cloud chasing off Bernie's legacy, do you really want to sit next to Steve Harvey and smile and let the world act like y'all are brothers? Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Steve Harvey already won. He's 68 years old, he's worth an estimated $200 million, and he's been on TV long enough that there's an entire generation that only knows him as the funny Family Feud man and not the hustler from the 90s. He'll be remembered for reinventing game shows, for the way he turned dead air moments into viral clips, and for packaging relationship advice like a product. He'll also be remembered for the Miss Universe disaster, the very public divorces, the ex-wife lawsuit that accused him of soul murder, and the constant whisper that he'll do anything to stay on top. And Bernie Mac? Bernie died at 50. He never got to live out his older statesman of comedy phase. Samuel L. Jackson still talks about him with warmth, respect, even grief. He made sure Bernie got honored on screen. He calls him family. So when you hear people online say, Samuel L. Jackson is about to expose Steve Harvey, understand what they really mean. They're not just saying Samuel is mad at Steve. They're saying there's a whole other Steve Harvey story that the mainstream audience never got. A story full of alleged jealousy, lawsuits, quiet enemies, money fights, image control, and friendships that did not survive the climb. Is that story 100% true? I can't say that. But the fact that this story even exists, that alone might be Steve Harvey's biggest problem.